Well, climate change is arguably one of the most pressing issues in the 21st century. It's an issue that cuts to the heart of how we live, how we work, how we relax and play in society. It's an issue that permeates all other issues, the kinds of acute challenges that we see around immigration, around human rights, around food availability, around water quality, can be linked and associated with climate change. And so to communicate about it is importantly a way to help inform members of the public and those that are at the forefront of climate impacts to better understand not just the situations that they're in, but the kinds of choices that they can make individually and collectively to change those conditions. And so one of the unfortunate ways in which we've found that by not communicating about climate change is that we end up in silence. We end up not confronting these issues as we should. We end up avoiding them and discussing other topics and then not connecting the dots of these critical issues. I think it's very important to communicate about climate change because it affects our everyday lives, it affects our medium to long-term future. And when we seek common ground with folks from different perspectives, be it different ideological viewpoints or different socioeconomic status, we can understand that this is a collective action problem. And so then we can also work towards common and collective solutions. And so by having those conversations and by importantly listening to one another and better understanding others' perspectives, we can bridge into these shared challenges that we face. Over the last decades, I've studied how media cover climate change. I've been very fascinated with how media representations shape a public discussion about attitudes, beliefs, intentions, perspectives, behaviors as they relate to climate change. I've been really fascinated about how there is this communication about formal science, scientific evidence for a changing climate and policy decision-making, how that affects everyday people in different segments of the citizenry. And so in doing that work around media, examining media coverage, I've found that taking that next step into more creative forms of communication can more effectively open up more channels and pathways for learning and knowing about the changing environment. So as time has gone on, I've bridged then into more innovative, interactive, dialogical ways of trying to meet people where they are. So for instance, communicating through humor and through comedy as a way to find another communication register and engage with people who otherwise may not take an interest in the science of climate change necessarily.